Dr. Michael Morbius is in a desperate search to find a cure for his illness. When he finds one, he soon learns that the cure may very well be worse than the disease. This is the Marvel legend, Morbius. Morbius is the... No, that's Mobius. That's Morpheus. There you go, that's Morbius. Morbius is the latest film from the Sony cinematic universe of Marvel characters. Yes, there is a difference. You will soon find out. Morbius' journey to the big screen has been quite the rocky one. It had its very first trailer debut back in January of 2020, mere weeks before the dreaded COVID lockdowns that shook America. It's clear that this wasn't being prioritized by Sony. Between the release of the first trailer and the release of the film, Sony was able to make a Spider-Man movie, have all of its biggest secrets get leaked, and still manage to break dozens of box office records. But yet, Morbius just sat on Sony's shelf. But yet, Morbius just sat there on Sony's shelf, just waiting to be released. And I can see why this film wasn't being prioritized. Morbius is a pretty unremarkable bad movie. It is the exact film I expected. It is full of the worst comic book tropes there are, and it's just not that entertaining. Jered Leto already played a bastardization of a famous DC character, so it only makes sense he plays a bastardization of a Marvel character. For what it's worth, and this might just have to be a testament to the film's quality, I think among the standouts of the cast, I think Jered Leto's probably the best one. I don't know if that's like a good thing or a bad thing for a film. I didn't necessarily mind that he was playing Dr. Michael Morbius just a bit more timidly and a bit more, quiet and reserved. And I think that made a good contrast to, Morbius when he's going full vampire. But when he's actually Morbius, it is so silly to me. And most of that just has to do with the awful CGI with the film and just the CGI face that he has for majority of the time. It is not great. It really kind of proves to me that the Venom films only work because of Tom Hardy's insane performance in that film. He really commits to the just weirdness of the character of Venom and Eddie Brock. It makes for an entertaining movie amongst what is a pretty, admittedly kind of bad movie, but his performance really just makes up for it. Jered Leto's performance in the film just doesn't, in my opinion. The performance in the film that makes Jered Leto's look like the subtle performance is Matt Smith's performance. I can't get too deep into the character because, to my surprise, this character is hardly in any of the trailers. I was quite surprised to find that out. Isn't Matt Smith like a pretty big actor? Didn't he play Doctor Who? You think they would advertise that more. His performance in the film was so batshit, pun intended, it almost made it up for the film. I just feel it gets bogged down by the most generic of generic superhero plot lines you could find in a film nowadays. If you could think of a comic book movie trope, it's in this film. It's like watching a Mad Lib script get played out by a multi-million-dollar Hollywood movie. I like to imagine Sony found the rights to this character and was like, oh, we own Super Vampire Man. Let's make a movie out of it. Okay, what do you want to do with the movie? I don't know. Where's the Venom script? Right here, sir. Okay. Erase Venom. Morbius. They take this really cool character and they make him the most generic thing possible. I just imagine that's how Avi Arad works, honestly. Much like Venom, Sony didn't want to go all in with the R rating for this film. And, it definitely shows. Why wouldn't they want the vampire killer who, sucks people of all their blood, leaving them empty husks? That's just too much. We can't market that to children. If they were so dead set on a PG-13 Morbius, I really think they should have taken inspiration from the 90s Spider-Man cartoon and given Morbius his hand suckers. Yeah, that was something that happened, and it's honestly more creepy and off-putting. I would have honestly liked that more. That would have been cool. A big talking point online about this film is, what universe does it take place in? There are so many things that point to it taking place in every universe imaginable. Admittedly, I think knowing what universe this takes place in is less of a puzzle while actually watching the movie. But there are still so many in-universe problems that I just don't think make any sense. The detectives in the film, this is in the trailer, so I'm going to say it, mention directly that this is about as good as the thing as we had in San Francisco, being a direct reference to the Venom films, and that's fine. I have no issue with that. My issue comes in when Morbius, trying to be threatening, looks at the guy and goes, "I am Venom."
I am Venom.
What? That doesn't make any sense. No one knows who Venom is. How does he know who Venom is? Venom's not going around parading himself like he's Tony Stark. Even in universe, that doesn't make any sense. Then, of course, there was the biggest talk of the internet, which was the addition of Adrian Toombs, a.k.a. the Vulture, as played by Michael Keaton. And all of his scenes that were in the trailer, cut. There's not a single scene of him that was in the trailer for this film that was in the final cut of the film. I really believe Sony is trying to just ride the coattails of the MCU's success and just try to trick people into thinking, oh, this is part of the MCU. But it's not. It's not part of the MCU. And we know that because of the after credit scene, which I won't get into, but oh my God, don't do this. Whatever you're doing, stop, Sony. Just stop. It's not worth it. It's the equivalent of one of those animated rip-off movies that are meant to capitalize on a big animated film. It's kind of the same movie, but it just looks a lot worse. And its only purpose is to scam unforeseen grandmas who think, oh, this is what my grandson likes. I'm going to get it for him. Not knowing you're not buying cars, you're buying a car's life. There's a big difference there, Grandma. Even down to one of the taglines of the film, "A new Marvel legend arrives." It really speaks to the idea that they're trying to just ride the coattails of the MCU. MCU films, to my knowledge, do not advertise themselves like that. They have confidence in their own movies, so they advertise the films as themselves. They don't advertise the brand. In the end, I don't think this is like the worst comic book movie I've ever seen in my life. If I had to give the film anything, at least, before the after credit scene, is that it was unsurprisingly bad. Almost the entire film is exactly what I expected. It's not a film I can recommend to anyone, even if you're the biggest, diehardest fan of Marvel, as I am. If you're looking for a good vampire superhero movie, Blade's pretty good. As for Sony's latest attempt to make their own Marvel universe of characters, it's just more BS. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and if you did, please consider hitting that like button and be sure to subscribe and ring that bell if you want to see more. Until next time, I'll get that way. How are you? I'll keep it. How hard it is to find vampire teeth in April?